My fiancée demanded I buy her parents a luxury car before our wedding. When I refused, she vanished with my credit cards, so I pressed charges. I'm a 33-year-old guy. About a year ago, I met a woman who seemed perfect, funny, sociable, and affectionate. We got serious quickly, enough that we started making plans for a future. Little did I know how quickly greed and entitlement could bubble up and blow everything apart. It started innocently enough. She mentioned her parents had fallen on hard times. They had car troubles, and she worried they wouldn't manage errands easily. I sympathized, even offered to help find a budget-friendly used car. She seemed grateful at first, but soon her tune changed. She began hinting that her parents deserved something nice, a proper car that would reflect well on them. I brushed it off, not thinking she meant a top-of-the-line luxury model. Then, about a month before our wedding date, she dropped the bomb. She wanted me to buy her parents a brand-new, high-end luxury car. She rattled off the make and model, naming one that cost more than my entire year's salary. My jaw nearly hit the floor. Politely, I reminded her I wasn't made of money. But she waved away my protests. "We're getting married," she said brightly. "Your money is our money soon, right? My parents deserve the best. This is a once-in-a-lifetime wedding gift." I tried reasoning with her. I explained that even if I had enough savings, blowing it all on a flashy car for her parents wasn't feasible. We had a future to think about: housing, potential children, emergencies. She shrugged and insisted real love means honoring her family, especially before the wedding. When I offered to help with a moderate car, or at least discuss a loan her parents might repay, she scoffed, calling me cheap. Our arguments escalated. She grew snappier each day, labeling me stingy, unromantic. She argued that if I truly cared about her parents, my future in-laws, I'd prove it with a grand gesture. Meanwhile, I found it absurd that she'd expect me to foot such a massive bill without so much as a plan for how we'd handle the debt. She didn't even want her parents to co-sign or contribute. She believed I should just grin, swipe a credit card, and present them with keys to a luxury car. 2 weeks before the wedding, tensions hit a peak. We were supposed to finalize details for the reception venue. Instead, she cornered me in the living room, brandishing glossy brochures of fancy cars, excitedly describing each feature. Heated, I asked if she understood we'd be in debt for years. She rolled her eyes, snapping, "Stop whining. You'll find a way." My parents must have this gift. I refused outright, in no uncertain terms. I said her demand was out of line, that I wasn't going to sabotage our financial future. She glared at me and then delivered an ultimatum. "If you don't buy them the car, this wedding might not happen. I won't marry someone who can't respect my parents." My heart pounded. The real her was rearing up, someone willing to toss away our relationship over material extravagance. I stood firm, refusing to budge. She stormed off, slamming the door. I figured we might cool off and talk rationally later. I had no idea she was already plotting something behind my back that would take this fiasco to an entirely new level of betrayal. The following day, I woke up to a strangely quiet apartment. My fiancée wasn't around, but I assumed she'd gone for a walk or run errands. I poured coffee and planned to reach out, hoping we could calmly resolve things. But after an hour, I noticed her luggage missing from the bedroom. My chest tightened. I checked my phone, no messages. Concern turned to confusion, then alarm. I glanced around for her personal items. Almost everything was gone. Instantly, I suspected she'd left in a rage after last night's argument. But the deeper shock came when I checked my wallet and discovered all my credit cards missing. My heart hammered. I rushed to my desk, rummaged through drawers. A few envelopes I kept with spare bank cards and some personal documents were also gone. Fear spiked, and I fumbled for my phone to call my bank. As I reported my missing cards, the rep informed me there was already suspicious activity, large pending charges at a luxury car dealership. My stomach churned. It was exactly what it looked like. She'd taken my cards and tried to buy the dream car for her parents, or at least put a substantial down payment on it. The bank froze my accounts, and I filed a fraud alert. My hands shook with equal parts fury and betrayal. She threatened to not marry me unless I caved, and when I refused, she literally helped herself to my finances. Friends urged me to notify the authorities, and I agreed. This wasn't just a lover's spat, it was theft. I headed to the local police station, recounted the entire twisted story. They took my statement, saw the bank confirmations of attempted charges, and said they'd investigate. I left, a swirl of disbelief coursing through my veins. How had I ended up with someone who'd do this just before our wedding? For 2 days, there was no word from her. The wedding date inched closer, but obviously, everything was in shambles. I told the venue to put our booking on hold, explained we had a family emergency. Meanwhile, I tried not to spiral, though I felt humiliated. My fiancée had up and vanished with my credit cards. The gloom lifted slightly when the bank confirmed they blocked her attempts to finalize a major purchase. At least she didn't manage to sink me into massive debt. On the 3rd day, I got a call from the police. They found the car dealership she'd visited, and it turned out she'd sweet-talked a salesman into starting the paperwork for a nearly 6-figure vehicle. She had apparently told him some story about her fiancé giving it as a wedding gift to her parents. The transaction was pending my final signature, which, of course, never came. Once the dealership realized the credit card was flagged for fraud, they demanded an explanation. That's when my fiancé bolted, leaving behind a partial deposit attempt that never cleared. I provided all relevant info to the detective, who said they'd keep me updated. I felt torn. Part of me was heartbroken we'd fallen apart so catastrophically, but a bigger part of me wanted justice. She tried to commit felony theft under my name, effectively. It wasn't a misunderstanding. She'd intentionally stolen my cards and run off. Word spread fast among some of our friends and family that our wedding might be canceled. Many were baffled, so I told them a truncated version. We had a major conflict over finances, and she'd left abruptly. Some guessed it was related to her parents, who had a reputation for living beyond their means. A few close friends were shocked she'd go as far as stealing my cards. Others asked if maybe we could work it out if she returned. But the gravity of her betrayal couldn't be overlooked. Then, out of nowhere, she showed up at my doorstep late one evening, looking disheveled and upset. She tried to push her way inside, brandishing tears and apologies. I panicked, she said, voice quivering. I thought you'd eventually say yes, so I wanted to speed up the process. As if that justified stealing my cards and attempting to buy a luxury car. I demanded to know where my cards were. She shrugged, claiming she tossed them once the bank flagged them, that she was scared of the consequences. My anger boiled. You threatened me, vanished with my credit cards, and tried to saddle me with a huge car debt for your parents, I stated plainly. Now you just say you panicked? She tried playing the victim, whining about how her parents deserved a lavish gift, how she felt humiliated telling them we wouldn't. She insisted she still wanted to marry me, just that we needed a fresh start. Let's forget about the car, she said, tears welling. We can move forward, no strings attached. For a second, heartbreak tugged at me. We'd shared genuine moments, plan a life. But I couldn't forget the brazen theft and manipulation. I've already filed charges, I told her. The police are investigating. Her eyes went wide. She snapped, you'd ruin my life with a criminal record over a misunderstanding? That final phrase, misunderstanding, hit me like a slap. This wasn't a misunderstanding. It was fraud. The confrontation blew up. She accused me of being petty and unloving. I told her to leave or I'd call the police again. She stomped off, cursing me for destroying everything. My hands shook from the intensity of the fight, but I felt a grim satisfaction that I didn't cave to her tears or false contrition. She'd chosen her path. She had to face the consequences. In the ensuing days, detectives confirmed they had enough evidence to press charges. She'd used my cards without permission, attempted a large transaction. The dealership was cooperating, providing security footage and documentation. Though part of me felt guilty pressing charges against someone I once planned to marry, the alternative was letting her walk free after trying to dig me into a financial sinkhole. She needed a reality check. Hopefully the legal system would provide it. Friends who learned the full story were appalled at her entitlement. Some asked if her parents had influenced her. Maybe they had, but she was an adult who made her own decisions. Her father apparently reached out to me, livid that I'd overreacted by involving the police. I calmly told him to ask his daughter for the real story. He spluttered about family matters not belonging in court, ignoring that he was the intended beneficiary of the stolen money. I ended the call swiftly. Eventually, a court date was set. My ex-fiancée, pleaded for me to drop the charges, claiming she was sorry. She even tried to spin a sob story about mental stress leading her to bad decisions. Yet she never once admitted the real wrongdoing, expecting me to finance a luxury car for her parents. She wanted me to simply forgive and forget, presumably so she could avoid a criminal record. I refused. The police had my statement, the dealership had the evidence, and the prosecution felt it was a clear case of attempted fraud or theft. My ex hired a lawyer who reached out with a proposal. If I recanted or declined to testify, they could settle. But I wasn't about to let her walk away scot-free. I told them I'd testify if needed. Meanwhile, my ex bombarded me with calls, switching between tearful pleas and angry tirades. I blocked her after a final text. "I'm done. This is on you." The case never went to a full jury trial, as she accepted a plea deal for reduced charges. She'd have to pay restitution for any fees incurred by my bank, plus a small fine. She avoided jail time but walked away with a misdemeanor on her record. I heard from a mutual friend that she was furious with me, claiming I overreacted, that I ruined her life. The friend asked if I felt any remorse. I simply repeated, she chose to commit credit card fraud. She nearly forced me into crippling debt for her parents' vanity. She can blame herself. With the wedding canceled, I had to contact the venue, the caterers, and guests. It was embarrassing. But in truth, I was relieved. I couldn't imagine tying my life to someone who viewed me as a walking wallet for her parents. My finances recovered. My bank reversed some fees, and the credit card attempts never finalized. I changed my accounts, got new cards, and locked down my credit. At times, I wondered if I'd been naive or blind to her entitled streak. Hindsight pointed to minor red flags: her lavish tastes, dismissive attitude about money, subtle remarks that real men spoil their partners. I ignored them, thinking it was just talk. But once push came to shove, she turned to theft. That shattered any illusions about who she really was. Now, months later, I'm grateful the fiasco happened before we exchanged vows. I learned that no matter how charming someone appears, if they demand extravagant gifts for others, disregard your financial security, and then commit outright fraud, you have to protect yourself, even if that means pressing charges. Some might judge me for involving the law, but I see it as standing up for what's right. Without consequences, she'd likely do it again to someone else. In the end, I found closure not by reconciling, but by refusing to waver when she came back begging. Her sense of entitlement was just too great, and her betrayal too severe. I pressed charges and let justice take its course. That was the best form of revenge, if you will, ensuring she faced the fallout of her actions. And it felt satisfying, knowing I wouldn't spend my life under the thumb of someone who tried to force me into debt for a fancy car. My future is wide open now, free of the illusions that nearly trapped me.